Mambas Legacy podcast. Today I'm joined here by Vala from the Not Your Weekly Sports Pod. Thank you for joining me today.
Cam, what a beautiful time to be a sports fan in the city of Houston, at least a basketball fan. We've gone through some darkness over the last year, but we're back. We got the second pick in the draft, and I'm excited to talk draft basketball with you. I've done some homework. I'm finally invested in this process of the NBA season, and it's good to be back on Mambas Legacy.
Oh, for sure. We love having you here. You for sure know your stuff, and I am ready to talk about that number 2 pick with you shortly. But first, I think we all know who the number 1 pick is going to be. That's definitely going to be Cade Cunningham, point guard from Oklahoma State. And he has definitely proven himself. Amazing passing, reads the floor well, a great guy. And I think that he could really be a good fit for these Pistons. When I saw that they got the number 1 pick, I was quite happy for them because I feel like they're one of those teams who's been stuck in this situation for a lot of years now. And I feel like they're deserving of Cade, so hopefully they can utilize him well and he can be a good second playmaker alongside Hayes. What do you think about Cade and his impact that he is going to have for the Pistons?
You said it best. You know, the Pistons, I feel like over the last decade, they've kind of been the team to beat up on in a tough portion of your schedule for Eastern Conference teams. Really no direction, poor management, ownership has kind of gone to the wayside as well. And they've kind of got a little foundation here, right? Saddiq Bey, last year, all rookie first team guy. They've got Killian Hayes, who looks like an interesting prospect. And as a Detroit Pistons fan, you've got to be thinking it's hard to screw this pick up. Cade Cunningham, you said it best, 6'8" playmaking stud for Oklahoma State. You know, where do we start with him? He's a consensus number 1 overall pick. He's an absolute star playmaker at 6'8". I feel like, and you're on NBA Twitter quite a bit here, but a lot of people look at numbers. They number chase these rookies a lot of times, not considering that they're playing in the NCAA, and spacing and fit is all out of whack compared to what they're going to see in the NBA. And they look at Cade's assist numbers, 3.5 assists per game at OK State, and forget the fact that, you know, teams were scheming their entire defenses around hedging him and double teaming him, trapping him off pick and rolls, and he still passed the eye test to me. The guy looks like an elite playmaker in the half court. He's got the highly coveted skip pass from corner to corner already at the age of 18. Like, how many 18-year-olds in the world can say they've got that covered against elite defenses? And
it's crazy.
Yeah, he's got the entire package. The playmaking obviously is what stands out as a 6'8" guard, but I'm sure there's a lot to his game that you want to bring up as well. I don't want to hog the mic time here. I've got a lot to say about Cade. I could go the entire podcast on him.
Oh, for sure. And I think you just said it very perfectly. And one of those things when I was researching Cade and looking into him, I noticed how well he was still able to play make off of those double teams. And I feel like, just like you were saying, when you look at these numbers, it's important to look at everything around these numbers in particular, and that his playmaking off of these double teams was really impressive to me watching him play. Nice 3-point percentage, that's for sure, with 40%. He really is going to be a good guy. I hope the Pistons don't mess him up, but he's definitely going number 1, and I think he's going to be a generational talent in the NBA.
Who's your ceiling for him? Give me a player comparison. If he fulfills this potential of being this number 1 consensus pick in an absolutely loaded draft, who do you see him living up to?
Well, that's a good question right there. One thing is that I'm questioning about him is I didn't watch the NCAA tournament a ton, and maybe you can help me with this here. His team, OK State, got out pretty early, correct, in the tournament?
Yeah, that's right. They were an early exit, and that's one of the bigger criticisms against him was his NCAA performance.
Yeah, so that's where I'm questioning what player he really could become. What player is your ceiling for him? Because I'm kind of torn with that.
I think his ceiling is an absolute star, all-around guard who can be your point forward. And I see a lot of shades of Grant Hill in him if he's able to really put together the playmaking ability. Because there are weaknesses to his game, right? He needs to tighten his handle. His assist-to-turnover ratio isn't the best for a guy who's running the entire engine over at OK State. And a big weakness of his that he can't really control, but he excels at in spite of, is his explosiveness, right? He didn't have that elite level athleticism that we're used to seeing from guys with this stature. A lot of former 6'8", 6'9" wings like the Jason Tatums of the world, the Jalen Browns of the world, all these other guys that we've seen with these kind of comps have been elite athletes. And that's something that Cade Cunningham's been able to, shine in the brightest light in spite of. And I think to think that he's going to fail simply because of that would be a little short-sighted when you look at a recent guy like Luka, who does everything in spite of, having white guy athleticism, as Jeff Van Gundy calls it on ESPN broadcasts. And
Right.
even a James Harden here in Houston. Harden was never an explosive highlight reel waiting to happen. So I see Grant Hill without the elite athleticism and maybe a floor of a guy like Sean Livingston if the concerns in the NCAA tournament are really valid.
Yeah, you said it best there, because I feel like he definitely has the potential, and I feel like anyone being the number one pick, that's a lot to live up to. So he definitely is going to have to come in and do some damage right away, or NBA Twitter will definitely be after him, I have a feeling. So we'll have to see where that goes. So let's move on to the number 2 pick. And as a Rockets fan, the debate of Green or Mobley is a big one right now. So who would you prefer the Rockets to draft?
I had a different answer for you yesterday. I'm sure I'll have a different answer for you tomorrow. I'm going back and forward between, obviously, Jalen Green of the G League Ignites and Evan Mobley from USC, 7-foot unicorn center, as they're all saying on Twitter. For me, I'm going to go with my instinct, since I'm sure I'll change my mind quite a few times over the course of these next few weeks. But I think Jalen Green has star potential written all over him, right? And I think a big part of that, which we've touched on Not Your Weekly Sports Pod, is this tendency of these guys who go and have professional experience somewhere, whether it's a guy like Luka playing from the age of 15 in professional leagues and being EuroLeague MVP at the age of 18, youngest player to ever do it, or a guy like Brandon Jennings taking a year off and going to Italy in spite of his NCAA career. Here you've got guys going into NBA programs in the G League right out of high school, being around professionals, being in a locker room with these guys, picking at their brains. Guys like Jared Jack, who played on the G League Ignite. Guys like Bobby Brown, Houston Rockets Hall of Famer Bobby Brown, said that Jalen Green is the absolute number 1 guy in this draft, even over Cade Cunningham. And that's due to his motor and his work ethic, according to Hall of Famer Bobby Brown. So for me, it's got to be Jalen Green for the simple purpose of he's getting this experience against professional guys. He had big-time matchups against a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. in the G League when they played the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. And all the different attributes he possesses, which we can get into. But for me, at least, until I see where you're at, I'm going to leave it there that I've got Jalen Green going number 2.
Okay, so right now, and I think I'm going to disagree with you for today, as I might change my mind because I've been going back and forth too. I think that I'd really like to see Mobley play alongside Wood with this Rockets team. Now, I do think it's very interesting how you can see that overlap for if either guy we drafted, Mobley and Wood, their overlap, and then Green and KPJ, their overlap. It's definitely there for either guy. So I think both guys would fit great, and it's just going to come down to who our management thinks has the greatest star potential. And I think Green definitely has that potential, but I think I'd like to see Mobley personally playing alongside Wood. I think that he could really help him with rim protection, better defense, which we saw Wood lacking. And we know Wood has kind of been playing that stretch position and playing that 5 a little more than maybe he should. So I think that that'd be cool to see with Mobley, that true center, and then Wood kind of going back to that 4 position. What do you think?
I think, honestly, if it wasn't for frame, if it wasn't for that strength and weight that's missing for Evan Mobley, we'd be right there talking about him as the number 1 overall pick, having this debate about who Detroit's going to take number 1 overall. However, with that in mind, you want to look at a guy like even Joel Embiid during his NCAA days was not the menacing Hulk that he is now. Anthony Davis had a sort of body transformation after he left Kentucky and went to the NBA. So who's to say Evan Mobley's not going to experience something similar to these guys? And like you said, he's an absolute freak defensively, right? He's an exceptional shot blocker. The guy averaged AD-like numbers in terms of his stats: 16, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks a game. And he only fouled 1.8 times per game. So he's going to stay on the court, which we know as Houston Rockets fans, and we saw a lot of Yao Ming and Clint Capella playoff experience in our days. That's a big issue when you play 7-game series and your centers aren't able to have that lateral quickness. And what they do to compensate for that, they might hack away at the guard. They might hand check. They might hip check. And they get in serious foul trouble, which isn't an issue with this guy. So Evan Mobley, if he puts on the frame, I mean, what a front court that would be. Evan Mobley, Christian Wood, both guys shooting ability, both guys soft touch, and both guys able to really handle the ball with a nice little triple threat, jab step, move from the high post, even the three-point line like we've seen from Christian Wood at this stage. So Evan Mobley, if we took him number 2 overall, I'm not complaining, right? This is a great position to be in to have this debate about these two guys.
Yes, that's true. I can't believe we're actually having this debate right now. I didn't think we were going to get to keep our pick because I was thinking of the worst, to be honest, as a Rockets fan. Had to prepare for that. But I think it's this position for us is really a good opportunity. I know everyone was hoping number 1, Cade, but you never know. You've seen in drafts in the past, these number 2, number 3 guys, they sometimes show up more than the number 1 guys. So you never know. And I think that this is one of those picks that really we can't go wrong with either of these guys. If we get Mobley Green, I'm not going to be complaining. And I think that this is the perfect place that our rebuild has taken us.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the thing about Evan Mobley, too, one final note on him is when you talk about the modern big in today's NBA, a guy who has that touch, who's able to switch and able to play up against guards. The guy had I think a 0.6 point per possession average with opposing bigs playing against him. And when you see him go up against guards, he's able to get so vertical with that 7'4" wingspan that he makes life difficult on point guards as well. So you're talking about a guy who affects the game in various points on the defensive end and already has great instincts to go with the tools, the physical tools that are there.
Yes, he's definitely been impressive in all aspects. So next up we have the Cavs picking at number 3. I'm thinking that they're going to go with whoever we don't take in that number 2 pick. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Cavs, you think about if Jalen Green falls number 3 to them, there's some people out there that say the Sexland backcourt of Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, it would be very guard saturated with Jalen Green, and there would be some pretty glaring defensive issues with that trio of guards as well. But I think with the Cavs, and what you hear at least every 6 or so months about Colin Sexton's tenure as a Cleveland Cavalier and where it's going to end up, I don't think you're in a position to be able to pick in terms of fit. You've got to take the best available player. And the best available player is simply one of Jalen Green or Evan Mobley. So I'm right there with you. I think whoever is the leftover of the Houston Rockets draft pick is going to go straight to the Cleveland Cavaliers. If they don't trade that draft pick, who knows? Cleveland has shown time and time again to be an inept franchise. So maybe they don't even end up making this pick. But if the pick is theirs, it will be one of those 2 players.
Yes, for sure. And even with that stacked backcourt, as you were saying, when you look at the other guys available, I feel like you just can't pass up on Jalen Green, or that'd be a big regret. And Sexton, I feel like even Cavs fans want him to be gone at points. I don't know. He doesn't seem like he's going to be a reliable guy there for many more years to come. And I've potentially heard of this pick being traded as well. Today I actually heard that they may trade it for potentially Ben Simmons in a package for that. I'm not even sure what all the details are.
Wow.
Trade.
We did a Ben Simmons trade destination podcast. I didn't even think of Cleveland as a viable destination.
Yeah, I feel like Ben Simmons at this point, that's a whole nother topic, but I feel like trades for him are floating around everywhere. I don't know. I wonder if he's actually going to be traded. What do you think on that? We can touch on that real quick.
I think there's situations where it would be amenable to both teams. My sleeper pick is San Antonio, bringing him to an organization that can develop talent and surround him with the right pieces and maybe have one last hurrah for Greg Popovich to coach a project like Simmons. And Philly would get back, their next playmaker in a DeMar DeRozan and some young guard wing players in Derek White and Javante Murray, having another elite point guard on the perimeter. And then, of course, I think San Antonio is going to have to throw in maybe a pick or two down the road to make it more palatable for Philadelphia. But that's one. And the Warriors, obviously, is the other crazy one everyone's bringing up. How scary would Ben Simmons be running the show and setting up Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green in that offense?
Oh, for sure. I feel like Simmons, he's not as far gone as everyone makes him out to be. I just feel like he needs the right coaching and development. So you said it perfectly. So back to this draft class, the Raptors, they have the fourth pick here, and I know that they definitely would like Mobley, but I don't think he'll fall this far. I think that they're probably going to end up going with Suggs. I feel like he is a quality perimeter defender, and his game plan is the Raptors' game plan is quite fitting for him with his fast-paced tempo. But I'm also not sure how Suggs is going to be in the NBA. I have some questions about him. Even though we've seen his really clutch moments and he's been in a great college program with Gonzaga, I know that that's one of the best NCAA basketball programs, made a very far run in the tournament with them, and that's definitely great for development. But I'm not really sure how he's going to be in the NBA. What do you think about that number 4 pick for the Raptors and Suggs' potential in the NBA?
Yeah, he's one of the more interesting players. I feel like he's got all the physical traits. Again, he's a 6'4" guard, 205 pounds, a 3-sport athlete in high school growing up. He's got all the physical traits, and from everything that has been said about him, he seems like an amazing leader and locker room guy who would be the perfect heir to Kyle Lowry's throne as, Toronto's big booty Kate King. So to see him in that role would be interesting. But like you said, there's definitely some question marks about his game. If you're going to be a point guard in today's NBA, a lot is asked of you offensively, unless you're a Patrick Beverley playing next to a unique player like James Harden. But for the most part, you're going to have to be able to shot create, and you're going to have to be able to get to the rim. And that's been the biggest question mark on Jalen Suggs transitioning to the NBA level is he doesn't really have the tight handle ability to create his own shot and really initiate an offense. He's a great half-court guy. He surveys the offense extremely well, seems very unselfish, excellent player in transition because of that athleticism and his ability to keep his head up and initiate those fast breaks. But for a top 5 pick, that's the big question mark, is you want to get a guy who can run your team. I think of him, if we want to get back to this ceiling and floors, I think the floor for him is a guy like George Hill. So I think he's deserving of this 4th pick. When you think about a ceiling of a guy like Drew Holiday, if everything pans out, if his 3-point shot becomes more consistent, and he's able to develop that playmaking skill set.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of concerning when you see him in this point guard role and you're questioning his playmaking. Like, as you were saying, that's something super important, as we all know, to that role. And I don't know if he has it or not. You look at the top 5 picks, and you assume some of them are going to be busts. And I feel like he is the biggest question mark for me looking at this draft class. And I feel like you said it perfectly with that floor and ceiling for Suggs. Those players definitely seem like he seems like he could definitely develop into that Holiday type or fall and not really show us what we're wanting to see from him. Do you think that he's going to be the guy for the Raptors, or do you think that he will fail at that role?
Oh, yeah. If Toronto drafts Jalen Suggs expecting him to be the guy, it's absolutely not going to work out the way they want it to. I don't know what Toronto is thinking in terms of their young guys in Siakam and OG, right? Are you assuming that you're going to build your team around Siakam and you're drafting a guy who can be a solid starter and an elite defensive lockdown guy who also provides leadership and high basketball IQ? Or are you assuming that one of Siakam or both of Siakam and OG are going to be moved at some point to create room for another star or potentially make Jalen Suggs that star, hand him the keys to the franchise, if you will. I don't think he'll excel at being the guy. But again, like a Drew Holiday, if he's put into the right position, if he's not asked to do too much too quick, I can see him developing into a nice little starting piece on a legitimate championship contender out east.
Yes, that is true. You said that perfectly. We'll see how much trust the Raptors have in him when he's drafted. I believe he'll be drafted fourth. I know even Raptors fans don't really want him. I know I was saying they really would prefer Mobley there, but when you see of the guys available, Suggs at that point is the guy you got to go with for the Raptors. So we'll see how good of a leader he can become. And even if he's not that guy, we'll see how it pans out for the Raptors and who will be the guy for the Raptors as we see people moving on from their right and left. And they're definitely in rebuild mode from when we saw them win the championship just a few years back. So the fifth pick of the draft, that goes to the Magic, we found out in the lottery. And I'm definitely thinking that the Magic are going to pick Kuminga, but definitely another guy I have some questions about being his shot is just not where it needs to be. He's shooting 24.6% from three and taking a lot of those contested threes. You don't really want to see that. So he definitely, even if shooting's not going to be his main thing, he definitely has to fix that shot. But I feel like with the Magic in the past, we've seen them want to draft guys who are just very athletic and can really be developed. And his size is there, very athletic, versatile guy. And I feel like that he's the perfect fit for the Magic system. What do you think about pick 5 going to the Magic in this draft?
you touched on a point I wanted to bring up. He's not shy, right? He takes a lot of shots, takes 25% from three on high volume. Confidence is not an issue with this guy. So hopefully developmentally, he's able to keep shooting the ball and keep getting in the gym to develop that three-point shot. But I see a lot of parallels in Jonathan Kuminga's game to a guy who was taken 15th overall in the 2011 draft, who everyone said the exact same things about. It was this kid out of San Diego State who couldn't shoot the ball worth a damn, who didn't have a tight handle, but had all the physical attributes to be a two-way star. You know who I'm talking about?
Who are you talking about?
Kawhi Leonard. I see shades of Kawhi Leonard in Jonathan Kuminga every single time I watched his highlight tape from his G League Ignite tenure. And again, for a guy who shot so poorly, you take some solace in knowing he's in the professional system and he's taking notes from guys, again, who've been in the league for years on end, vets in locker rooms. And a three-point shot is honestly the easiest thing to fix in the NBA, I feel like, unless your name is Markelle Fultz. That's something you can work on over the course of a career. But I think Jonathan Kuminga is a guy who, if you're the Orlando Magic and you're taking him 5th overall, you've got a ceiling for a guy like Kawhi Leonard. But again, like Kawhi Leonard, you're not going to get that until maybe his 5th or 6th year in the league, because there's a lot of stuff that he needs to work on. He's a very raw player at the age of 19 coming out of the G League Ignite, still has no shot. His handles are questionable. All the tools are there defensively for him to be a multi-positional defender, but the discipline's not there. He got lost on a lot of help side sets, and he was actually targeted towards the latter part of the G League season when they were leading up to that playoff run. So interesting player, probably the most interesting project in this top 5 of the draft, but I really hope the Orlando Magic don't put him in a position where they're asking him to start to become that 6'7" wing playmaker that they're lacking so sorely. Kawhi wasn't asked to do that. Kawhi didn't really become what he was until about his 5th or 6th year in the NBA. So you hope that Kuminga's put in a favorable spot, because I think the tools are there for him to be a two-way star. It's just a matter of when and if he's going to put them together.
Yes, patience is definitely going to be key for both Kuminga, I feel like, and the Magic. I feel like we know, as you were saying, he's definitely confident, but I feel like he's going to have to also take a step back, develop, and he has to be willing to do that. He can't get too in his head here about, I'm the 5th pick, I'm going to do this right now. Like, he can't do that either, because I've seen in some film of him playing that he'll definitely take the three that he shouldn't be taking rather than finding an open, available guy who might be a better fit for that shot. And that's what scares me a bit about him. I hope that he's willing to take a step back as well as the Magic. But like I was saying, hearing about the Magic, I think that they're the perfect destination for him because I feel like they really want to develop him. And I feel like they know right now that he is a project. What do you think about that? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, these guys, the NBA right now, I feel like is more self-aware than it's ever been. And the Orlando Magic know. They know all the talk on Jonathan Kuminga. They know all the tape on him. And they know more than they would about other prospects because, again, not to sound like a broken record, but he's been in the professional system and he's been on a G League team playing against other professionals. So I think they're going to really try to develop him well, like they've done with Jonathan Isaac, right? Jonathan Isaac was looking like right before he tore his ACL, oh my God, this guy's the next unicorn wing with a ridiculous wingspan that can play 4 positions on the basketball court and has tools that you shouldn't expect to see from a guy with his physical traits. So it's been promising to see what they've done with players. And let's talk about another reclamation project for the Magic. How about Markelle Fultz reviving his career before he went down with a knee injury? So Jonathan Kuminga is going to a good place in the Orlando Magic. It's going to be interesting. I would be interested to see a polling on how long people think it'll take for him to become a starting level player on a competitive playoff team.
Yes, for sure. And to go back into what all you've been talking about the Ignite, I think it says something that you see 2 of these Ignite guys in the top 5 of the draft class. So we definitely know that these people coming out of high school, they're definitely utilizing the opportunity that the Ignite provides. And I feel like it's going to become a very popular route for a lot of guys. I mean, you don't have to be in the college world, and I know that's a whole nother thing. And I feel like that the Ignite will become a popular route. Who knows? Maybe they'll be having to start 2 Ignite teams in the coming years. What do you think about the opportunity that the Ignite provides for these guys and the fact that we're seeing 2 of them in the top 5?
Look, you've got guys whose parents, families, livelihoods depend on their ability to produce on a basketball court. Having the opportunity, basketball aside, to make money off of their God-given abilities and their hard work in the gym, able to sign sponsorships using their names and their branding that they're making from a very young age with Ball is Life, YouTube basketball, and the various forms of media that we really have the most accessibility to than ever before in the history of basketball. And so that coupled with the fact that, these players are coming in and getting this professional experience and being in these professional locker rooms right from the get-go, I'm going to go on a hot take here and tell you that in 10 years, I think the NBA G League is going to start to really compete with the NCAA in terms of consistently having the core crop of the most talented guys in basketball. This year, I think it would have happened had it not been for Cade just balling out at OK State. But I think pretty soon we're going to have the best player in draft classes coming out of the G League.
I definitely agree with that. And at the moment, of course, the college route is the more traditional pathway. So I'm sure a lot of guys are just going with that. Colleges are talking all about them. They want them in their program for obvious reasons. And I feel like that to a young kid could seem like an amazing opportunity. You're going to be the main guy at the college, and then that's going to make you a front runner in the draft because that's what we've seen this year as well with Cade, but in the past. But I think that these 2 Ignite guys we're seeing here, Kuminga and Green, we're going to see how well they perform and what the professional experience does for them. Because right now we're just guessing. Of course, we assume that it'll be beneficial because why wouldn't it? But these guys, we're going to see what they can do with that time spent in Ignite, and we're going to see if that's a plus or a minus. And I think that'll definitely change the first guys in the upcoming draft classes coming out of Ignite will definitely change the path for some of these players coming up in future years.
Yeah, absolutely. And who would have thought it takes us so long to think of this idea when we have this broken system in the NCAA where you have so many one-and-done guys coming in and out of college basketball and kind of, I don't want to say tainting the legacy of the NCAA, but kind of taking away from what made the NCAA so special in the 80s and 90s, these 4-year rivalries between sets of players and teams that really had personality. So I think the G League Ignite's going to be a change for good, and we're going to see a lot more of it going forward. This isn't an isolated incident. It's just going to get crazier and more saturated as the years go on.
For sure. And I feel like this is something that NCAA and these college programs, they're definitely going to have to find a way to attract these guys to their programs. Because me personally, now with all this one and done stuff, I'm not the biggest fan of NCAA basketball with us picking a specific college to follow, because the guys who are already good, they're not going to be there the next year. So this is going to continue happening even more. And these college programs are going to be missing out on some great players who would attract a lot to the program. So it's definitely something to worry about for the colleges, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up today, I was wondering if you have any other comments about this draft class or anything else you'd like to close us out with today.
Well, I really don't think the 5 teams that we see right now are going to be at these positions when it's all said and done come draft day. I think there's going to be some trades. Houston's been involved in a lot of trade talks, whether it's moving up or possibly being okay with either or of Jalen Green or Evan Mobley and moving down in the draft and picking the latter of the two, whether it's a trade with Cleveland or a trade with another team. There's going to be some moves in the top 5, and this is going to be one of the more interesting drafts because I can't remember a time where you had 5 such highly touted prospects and such uncertainty about what was going to happen from 2 to 5 with the pick order and the teams picking at that position as well. So I don't know if this is just the Rockets fan in me finally being invested in the draft after decades of Daryl Morey trading every draft pick we had, or if this is really what's going on and this is going to be a unique draft to follow. If so, I'm glad we did this podcast, and I'm glad we were able to get this on record because I think it's going to be fun come draft day, and it's going to be really fun season seeing these guys develop and pan out and really validate our predictions here on Mamba's Legacy.
For sure, and I can definitely go with what you're saying. It was so annoying with our draft picks always getting traded. I know we probably got some good things from those, but I remember, I believe it was last year, it was like right before the draft, we're supposed to get a pick. Not one of these picks, obviously, but any pick. And I was like ready. I'm like, who are we going to get? I'll watch this draft, just this part, to see who we get. And then right before the picks are gone, I'm just like, oh gosh, here we go again. So it's definitely interesting to see who we'll get as Rockets fans and how that'll work out for our development program. And the lottery was definitely exciting too. What were your feelings on it when you heard that we got the number 2 pick?
Elation, relief, pure ecstasy. It would have been really, we lived through some dark years as Houston sports fans. I remember the Kyle Lowry, Luis Scola, Aaron Brooks, Houston Rockets teams that meddled in no man's land. I remember the Houston Astros tankathon where you could only watch them on Root Sports AT&T, and they lost an entire generation of sports fans. I think we would have seen something very similar to the Houston Rockets young fan base if we didn't get this draft pick, had the season that we just had, and continued to try to tank for whatever purpose, not having a young centerpiece other than Christian Wood, if you consider him that. So just relief. This definitely expedites the rebuild process for the Houston Rockets. And who knows, we're maybe 1 year away from fielding a competitive team, depending on some trade moves that Rafael Stone can make. And so far, he's shown that he's been a more than capable successor to the culture of really excellent roster building and developing and finding talent in hidden spaces that Daryl Morey established here in Houston.
Oh, for sure. And definitely, I feel for you because myself being only 16, and I haven't been there all the way through those dark times. So I'm quite happy for myself. I've been through the Grid Rockets times, but times those were not fun. I'm glad you're remembering that because that would have been us, and I am so glad it is not because I do not want to go through that again. That was rough.
Yeah, good times here in Houston. Cam, thanks for having me on. This was fun. Like I said, I'm always willing to come back on Mama's Legacy Pod. You and Max are doing awesome things. Y'all's website looks cool. I know Max is working on it every day for different browsers for mobile viewing. So keep up the good work. You got a fan in me.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on today, and we always love having you. And make sure you guys listening check out our website. The link is in the bio, and I hope you guys have a great day today. Bye-bye.
Later.